let's just get started. First of all, I want to thank everyone for joining me today. My name is Tegan. I'm an application specialist at Catapult ERP. I'm going to be going over some of the features that have been introduced in the new update from Microsoft, known as the Wave 2 release of Business Central, or version 17. There will be a section for questions at the end. If you have any questions, just please enter them in the chat bar on your right. I will save some of the questions for the end, and I'll go through some of those if you guys have some. So let's just get right into it. What is the fall update? This is going to be a pretty common question with lots of people. Microsoft has two updates they release every year, one in the spring, one in the fall. These updates are based off of recommendations generally from partners and users. And some of the features are also just new features added by Microsoft themselves with their roadmap for what they're planning with Business Central. One of the nice things about having the cloud-based platform is that these updates are pretty seamless. They're just going to roll out overnight over the weekend when you're out of the system. And overall, there usually isn't too many issues. Generally, there'll be some minor ones, but it's constantly being changed, and new features that are being added are being worked on all the time. So the topics I wanted to cover today, while there are a lot of changes, I really wanted to just look at a few of the bigger changes. Some of them are going to be just some quality of life things, but these are some of the quality of life changes I believe are going to be used a bit more. There are tracking packages is now supported in Business Central with different carriers. You can track them from sales invoices. There's also now extended item reference numbers. That's just a fancy way of saying you can apply more reference numbers to a particular item. There's some general just navigational changes to some of the pages, and some fields have been renamed. Nothing too major. Some of the bigger changes, not overall to how they perform, but there is some changes to general journals as well, with checking for errors to help speed up time for anyone who's preparing journal entries. There's also a new page that's been added. And this page has some new functionality. It's not very complicated, but it is going to be nice for saving time. There's also, I'm going to go over just how these features are enabled, where you can enable them, what comes enabled by default, kind of how that works, Microsoft's kind of philosophy with the changes they make to these pages. And lastly, I'll go over the Company Hub. This is kind of a higher level overview of the Company Hub, and this is just really going to be a quick glance at the maybe potential use cases of it. This isn't going to be very relevant for every company, but some companies that want to utilize this is something that's being built out. So this is brand new, and it's going to be continued to be worked on by Microsoft over time. So we can expect a lot of changes for the Company Hub in the future. Okay, so let's get started with looking at Business Central. So obviously from the start, we noticed there's no major changes. Everything's going to be mostly the same. One thing that has also taken place is Microsoft has improved performance in the system. They have changed some stuff on the back end just to make it a bit snappier, a bit quicker. So we can continue to see some performance improvements over time. Every single client now and everyone who is using Business Central is given access to one production environment and 3 sandbox environments with the purchase of their license. You are given now 80 gigabytes of database space, and you can purchase additional production environments, which will also give you additional storage space in the amount of 4 gigabytes for every production environment you purchase. All those will also come with extra sandbox environments. Now, the limits of space that they have for 80 gigabytes shouldn't affect shouldn't affect most companies. It's plenty of space, and we're able to monitor how much you're using on the back end. So that's just one of the that's one of the changes. They're just going for their licensing and their issuing Business Central to clients. So having the extra production environments and the unlimited production environments is going to be nice in the future. The extra space just may have to just be something to keep in mind as well. So the first feature I wanted to look at is going to be the changes to items. So if we navigate to our items page, in this demo company here, I have a bunch of just generic pieces of furniture. If I'm to go into, say, the conference table here, nothing major has changed with the items themselves on the cards, but when I navigate to related item and item references, there's this new page here where I can apply different item numbers to either customers, vendors, or specific barcodes. So in this case, I could say select a vendor, and I could then determine that maybe Trade Research uses a different item number than what we have here for 1920-S. For instance, the customer here could be using this reference number, and we may want to carry this through to our sales documents, as this customer may end up referring to this item differently than we would. And if we can carry this through, it's just going to make it easier for communication, and it's going to make it easier for just tracking items that have been sold to different customers. You can do the same thing with vendors as well when you're purchasing. So we could always set a vendor, say vendor 30,000 here. And we could even set it just to the same one, or we can set it to pretty much anything we want. And this is a pretty flexible field. The reference number field supports quite a few characters. We could also set barcodes internally for if we wanted to use certain barcodes. So it is got a bit of flexibility there. But I'll show you just how this carries through to an actual sales document. So we know we made the change to the 20,000 there. If we were to go prepare, say, a sales order and create a new one, so if we were to go select the item that we just modified, in this case, it was the conference table, it will now pull in that item reference number that we put in for this specific customer automatically. Now, we can also drill down into here, and we can view all the reference numbers for all their items for this specific customer. So in this case, we have a reference number for another item that I did set up and test, and it was for 1900S. But right now, we're just using this one, and this is just a list of all the changes that have been made. So this will carry through. And if you did have an item that, say, did not have an extra item reference number, it would just continue to use the regular one here. So I'll show you an example of that. And here's an item just without that extra reference number. Now, there's also been a change made to lookup screens, as I like to call them. So these are just any pages where you're searching for information. So generally you have this, when you click a drop-down arrow, you'll have a box, you'll have to scroll through or type in to look for it. Sometimes it can be a little messy. Microsoft is really just trying to improve the user experience here. So you may not notice right away what's different, but the bar at the top here has been condensed. So now you really just have the search button. This just makes it a bit easier for the user experience, just to kind of give you the information that's relevant. Now, you can always go back to the old menu by clicking on the three dots and unselecting the Shows Menu option, in which case you'll have the same information as you did before, and you can always condense it afterwards. This is going to be a change that's made on any screen where you're searching for a certain number or description, an item, a GL account, and or maybe even changing your role or selecting a company. And what it is, it's just Microsoft trying to only give you the information you need on a certain page, so there's less clutter and bloat. So that's a nice little just quality of life thing as well. Over time, they're just going to continue to improve the UI, make it a bit easier for especially newer users. So now that we have these items prepared, will take me to my next thing I would like to cover is you now have new fields in the shipping and billing section of sales orders. So we can set up different shipping agents. There's a few that were set up here by default, but we can always create new ones. And we can select what kind of service. Let me select the shipping agent first. And we can define if it's the type of delivery that we're offering. And after that, we can then put in a package tracking number. So this is going to give us the ability on sales documents to track packages that have been sold to customers. We are not able to run the track package function until this is posted to a sales invoice and it is deemed out for shipping. This is brand new, so I could see some changes certainly being made in the future. I could see certainly more functionality added to this, but I will post this and show you just how it actually works. So if we go to the invoice that was just posted, we have our items here. In our shipping and billing, we'll see we are using this agent and this package tracking number. If we select process and track package on a posted sales invoice, that will then take us to FedEx. And now some of the agents have they automatically search up the tracking number, but one of the limitations is this one here does not. So we would have to manually copy and paste it. Now this is hopefully something we can do in the future. Business Central, will obviously change a bit more, and Microsoft is going to continue to work on this. So that's on the wish list. But for now, it is nice to at least have this information documented and for it to carry forward and for it to be archived historically. So in terms of the quality of life features, those are kind of my favorites. Those are the ones that you're going to probably notice right away. There's lots of other little minor things, like I said, performance improvements, maybe some changes to certain pages where there might be a bit more space. There won't be anything major, but it's just trying to improve the user experience, like I was saying. Now, the big changes that I am a big fan of and I really like is going to be these two new changes to general journals. So if you aren't too acquainted with the general journal screen, there's two new columns that have actually been added. So this one's called background error checking and posted journal lines page. I'm just going to dive in because it's going to be easier just to show them off than to try to explain them. But first thing first is there's a new back box on general journals. This is going to check all your general journals as you prepare them. So traditionally in the past, when you would prepare a journal entry, you'd preview your posting. What the journal checking does now is it is a live action method of previewing your journal entries as you prepare them. So, I mean, the easiest way to really see it is to just prepare a journal entry. So I can just prepare a typical small journal entry. And as you see, it's already updating. So as I go to fill in fields, there may be some lag because when I'm selected in a field, it's anticipating a change. But as I click out of fields and I click on different lines, it will continue to update. I also dive into here, and you can see when I'm searching up through this menu, I also have the search bar that's easier to go through. So let's just select, say, rent expenses. Okay. Now, the error is still here. What I'm going to do is just click off this line, because now it knows I'm done with that line and I'm not entering more data into it. And it's going to update and tell me there's no issues found. Now, if I was to say, enter a similar entry, but let's say I don't have a balancing account. Now it's going to tell me that this line, this document number specifically, is out of bounds by 100. Now, if you also have dimension requirements, so say cash requires a dimension, it will also let you know if there's any dimension errors. It will let you know about posting dates. Are they within your period or not? It will let you know about any posting issues to certain GL accounts. If I was to use, say, posting to a vendor subledger, it would also inform me about dimension requirements for that as well. And I can still run the preview posting similarly to before, where it will tell me the same information that's on this current line. Now, there's one more thing about this feature that's actually really nice. And if I click on Actions, Page, Issues, so it's deep in the menu here, but I can show lines with issues, and I will only see lines that have errors. Now, if you're preparing a lot of journal entries, or you've brought in a lot of journal entries that you've prepared, say, in Excel, you can then just view all the ones with errors and correct them. And when they're done being corrected, then you can go back and just show all the lines again. One other function that is also nice, again, if you have a lot of entries, you can click on the total issues, and it will just give you this big list. And then you can go through the list and view all the different errors. This is going to make it really nice, I think, for anybody who's just preparing this. Anyone in kind of the preparation role is going to be great, and anyone who's reviewing journal entries as well. It's a quick way just to view what's wrong. You're not going to have to go through the preview posting, check, make a change, go back, and then make the change again. And the trial and error is going to be done mostly through here. So let's make the correction to this one here. We can search up for, let's find just a regular expense. Let's just do rent again. Now, when these get posted, they're going to go to a new page because I've enabled it in my batch. So I've enabled this feature here. This is one of the ones we have to check on. Same with the background error checking. So I've posted those journal entries, and generally they'll go to the general ledger entries page. But now there's a posted general journal page. This is brand new, and this is just going to be enabled by default. This is just a new page. But it won't be used unless your batches and your templates are using it. So this is a pretty easy one to turn on. But now you can see, traditionally, we would have an entry posted to the general ledger entry, and we wouldn't know how those entries were related. So I can show you that just after this. But right now, every general journal I prepare is going to have a unique general register number attached to it. So here's 856, 856. While these were different lines and they could be for different purposes, they're still tied together, and they still have this historical record of being posted within the same register. So I also have some older ones. I have these 851, 848. Now, I'll show you the general ledger entries just so you can get a quick look at what it would look like traditionally. So here was the two entries I made, but the issue we generally have, and lots of clients I know have a problem with, is, do we even know if these two are related? Were these posted in the same general journal? So if we look here, they actually have an entry number, but this entry number doesn't really tell us anything about how they're related. It just says this is the entry when they were posted. And that's really it. That's all the information you have. Yeah, you can go ahead and reverse from here if you want to reverse these entries or if you want to correct them. But it is a little clunky, especially with trying to just get that overview of what's been done and when. Now, with the general register numbers back on the posted general journal page, there are a few things we can do with each of these lines. So we can copy just this line specifically to a journal. And if we were to do that, we could select the template we want to use. So just regular general one, the batch. So if we wanted to use a different batch, maybe for corrections. And then we can replace the posting date, or we can use the same. If we leave it blank, we'll just use the same. We can post to a new document number, or we can overwrite, we can write on top of this document number. And then you have the option to reverse the sign. So the other option has the same settings, but it will copy the entire register. So we will copy all of 856 instead of just the one line. And it has the same settings where you can select your batch, your posting date, and you can reverse the sign on it, whether it's a correction or if you just want to copy the general register number entirely and everything that was in that general journal. So this is actually going to be really nice if you have a very large general journal entry. Once you have a lot of them, it's going to be nice to just search through this. It has most of the same fields as the general ledger entries, most of the same information. It's pretty detailed. This will be able to be drawn out of Business Central and put into Power BI, obviously. Now, there's also a small little quality life change I can mention as well. You might notice this is called Find Entries now. It used to be called Navigate. So the Find Entries operates the exact same as Navigate, but it makes a bit more sense if you're looking for it. It'll take you to the same thing where you can find the GL entries, posted general journal lines. So that's obviously the page we're on, and that's the traditional general ledger entries. So this is a really nice to have. It's about time it's been put into Business Central. I'm really happy this is here. It's going to make working through corrections. It's going to make working through just even viewing your general ledger entries very easy. Yeah, this is going to be used a lot. I could see them, certainly maybe adding some features to this. And now this is really just going to take me to the feature management. This is mostly what's enabled. How do you enable stuff? Like how does Microsoft really determine this? Well, this is more for your partner. So what Catapult we would be doing is we would maybe turn these on for you. We could walk you through setting this up, but there is a page called Feature Management. Now, given you have the right permissions, you can come in here, view the different changes and when they'll be enabled. So all these features are the new features in Wave 2, the fall update. And the thing is, many of them are ready to deploy, but they are not automatically enabled until these dates. So in many cases, this will be enabled in the spring update. This will be enabled in the fall update, these two here, etc. But we can enable them manually because they are ready to go. Now, there may be bug fixes deployed for some of these. Some of them may have some minor issues, but none of them are really going to change the overall function of Business Central, maybe besides the general journal ones. But the only general journal one that's not enabled by default is this financial journals in the background one, so I've turned that on. The action bar and dialogues is the other one I was showing you, so that one's obviously a little different. To turn on a new feature, all you have to do is just select the enabled for column and select that and all users. Then it will turn on for the current company. And it's really just that simple. You may have to sign out and sign back in. You may want to have all the users out of the system before these are enabled. Some people maybe do not want to turn them on until they're automatically prepared. That's also an option as well. We can always prepare it in a sandbox environment and have it tested, and then you can go into your live company and turn them on after you've had a chance to look. I didn't really cover some of these other features because some of them are more minor. They're just, even in terms of quality of life changes, they're just very little. Some of them are really just changing the ability or the emailing in Business Central, and some of them are just performance improvements, which are obviously continuously being worked on. But that's really it for the feature management. The last thing is kind of a big change that's a work in progress that I mentioned a few times. So this is the company hub. The company hub is both a page and a role. So I will change my role just to show this off. But there is now a new role you can select. It's called company hub. You go here. What will happen once this loads is it will give you an overview of, once set up, it will give you an overview of all the companies you've put into your company hub, including your environments. So I have two environments, this other sandbox, and I have this Catapult sandbox. Now what we can do is add new ones. So I'll just show you how this works, just a high level overview. I have two what are called environment links. So I can call these whatever I want. I can give them numbers or codes. When I click into here, I can then provide some information about this certain environment. I can give it a certain code, such as sandbox. I can determine if I want to include demo companies or not. All you really need to do is set up an environment link, which is going to be a link to your Business Central environment, either your production or your sandbox. Make sure you have the number and name selected. A group code, I would recommend having these in just to sort them. And the address and contacts optional. But once you have all this information filled in, you can test the connection. It will open in a new window just to test your login. And then we can confirm if it was successful or not. And it will start thinking and spinning its wheels. And after that, it will pull in all the companies from that environment into your company hub. So in this case here, it validates the link. And we can go back to our main page. And there we are. So we can add new environments just like that. It's pretty straightforward. Now, the use case for this is if you have, say, your production environment and your sandbox environment, and you want to be able to jump between them. So this is in a completely different environment. Here is, or no, sorry, I'm in this environment. But if I wanted to jump to this one here, I could click on this company, and it would take me to that environment and that company. So it's kind of nice because I don't have to go open up a new browser window, navigate to that link. I can go right from my company hub and just boom, pop over there. Even if I'm within my own company, I can say, I want to go to this test company instead of Cronus Canada. So I can click on this and it will take me right there. This is going to be really, really useful for anyone who, for any clients who have a lot of companies. Other use cases are going to be in the future. If you have different production environments using different localizations, it's going to be good for developers, any testing. Even if, say, we at Catapult, say, are testing a new feature, you guys, we could assign you, say, tasks. So the company hub is going to be useful for these tasks, where we can then view within a company all the different tasks that are associated with them. So they're pretty straightforward. If I just click on my user tasks, I can view a list of different things I've been given. So if the company had a display name, would have this. I can also view when they're due, the priority. I can click into a task. And then when I click into that task, it'll take me right to the company with that task card. Now, if you guys aren't too acquainted with tasks, what I can show you real quick is there is a page called user tasks. Now, if we want to create a new one, we can, it's pretty self-explanatory, some of the information we fill in. So we can just create a test task and we can assign it to a user. So in this case, let's assign it to myself. And we can assign it certain groups. If we want to assign it to a group of users, we can assign a due date. We can adjust the completion percentage, depending, maybe we need somebody to jump in and complete the rest of the tasks, maybe 75% done. Start date, and we can assign a priority. So this is an interesting tool that could be used in the future, for especially for delegation and just accountability. But I will leave it for now because I think the most important thing is looking at this company hub. There's also going to be general KPIs. These aren't too modifiable right now. This is just going to be added onto, but these are just at a glance, quick kind of overviews of your cash, your purchase invoices and your sales invoices that are overdue. So it's just a quick way just to visualize and go, okay, yeah, this is what's here. If we click into the actual company hub itself, this is just a bit more detail instead of the dashboard. From here, we can actually view the user tasks, right? So it'll take us to that same page. If there was errors in any of the companies, you would get an error, and then you can view them here and delete them as needed. And then you can also reload all companies, and that will refresh the data. So this is certainly a work in progress, but I see there are going to be potential use cases. This is going to be really nice from a service perspective, at least if you do have an account working in your system. If you do have, maybe auditors could use this page. It's just to very easily jump between companies. The real application is going to come though if you have multiple production environments or for testing. So this is a big one, and the uses are really just going to have to be, it's going to be improved over time. So now I'm going to just wrap up here, but let's see if we can, get a few questions. I noticed there's a couple of them. So I'll start to go through some questions now. If you have any, just submit them. Let's take a look. So the first question is, what is the process for notifying a client when reaching their space limit, and what point is the notice made? We don't know what that entails yet, but we have checked the environments from our clients. Nobody is really close to the 80 gigs. If you are, we will let you know. I'm sure there will be a warning that's going to be given out. The documentation Microsoft has given us just lets us know that these are the changes being made. So we're really going to have to stay on top of that. We'll dig into it and just see, because this is brand new. Before you didn't have this space limit, but now they're requiring it. I think 80 gigabytes is plenty. I wouldn't worry too much. You're not really going to hit that very quickly. Lots of the data in Business Central, it's not going to get too large. I know with historical records, some people may be worried. But there's going to be that option as well to always just purchase more space as well in the 4 gigabyte chunks. For us, we're just interested to learn more as well. Like at Catapult, we're just trying to figure out more of this too. Because when the change came, we were like, oh, okay, like it wasn't too expected. But we get their logic right. And the way they're doing it. So we'll have to look into that more as more information comes out on that. So hopefully that answers your question, at least for now. We have another one though. So what is on the roadmap for bank reconciliation modules, specifically a robust auto matching function that allows matching based on selected fields? Now, the changes to the bank rec module currently were just providing more space. What I've read in some of the documentation is they want to improve the auto matching, but there isn't the auto matching based on selected fields. It's still based on the setting the threshold for the change in posting dates, right? So it's something that is not going to be in this update, maybe in a future update. The bank rec changes to me were very, very minor. I honestly thought they could have done a little bit more, but it's not like the bank rec module is really being ignored. They have done, they call performance improvements, and what they say is providing more space in the bank rec module. So when you're in the bank rec, you actually have more visual space to view your bank ledger entries and bank statement lines. Okay, there's another question. So it looks like the approval entries tab is a new feature on the dashboard. Do I need to set it up myself, or will it be automatically set up? Depending on your role, This may already be enabled for you. You might just have to add it. Let me go back to the business manager and we'll take a look at it. Just close these other tabs real quick. So I believe you were talking about the approval entries tab here. If these are the ones you're talking about, these were already in a prior version of Business Central with the role. If they're not on your main page, we would have to go into the gear up here, personalize, and then we would be able to add it back. So we may be able to just add this back for you as well, depending on the role you're using. It may be missing. It may just maybe not on your user role that you're using, but it's something we can certainly put back in. Okay. Yeah, so I'll wait an extra minute or so for any other questions. Again, if you guys want more information, if you want a more detailed look at maybe some of the features that can help you, you can always obviously reach out to us through our support portal, and we can actually schedule something. Yeah, we can schedule something to actually walk through and show a bit more in depth and how you guys can test it yourself. So yeah, I'm just going to start to just wrapping up. If you guys do have questions, let me know.